But I guess, kind of going back to the beginning though, what led you to starting a Hotwire, and maybe what were like some of those kind of early days like?
Yeah, so I mean, I started Hotwire when I was 23 and didn't know anything. And um, it was going really well for the first 2 years. So 99 to 2001, Hotwire was growing. We got up to about 200 employees. We'd raised about 75 million of venture capital, and we were one of the early leaders of online travel and had this huge tailwind at our back from the migration from offline travel to online travel as people were just discovering the internet and starting to book travel online. And then 9/11 happened. 9/11 happened September 11th, 2001. And obviously, terrible tragedy for the country. 3,000 Americans were killed, 4 planes were hijacked, started two wars, and changed the whole trajectory of the next 25 years. For Hotwire, for our little travel startup, it was also pretty terrible. And it was terrible for a couple of reasons. Firstly, our customers were stranded. We had tens of thousands of passengers around the world that weren't able to travel because planes were grounded for, I think it was 11 days after 9/11. And secondly, we had tens of millions of refund requests because we sold a non-refundable product, and a lot of people were afraid to travel for the next 6 or 12 months. And so we had a huge problem dealing with the core business. And then finally, we had sold tickets to the hijackers, not the September 11th flights, but the September 10th tickets from Bangor, Maine to Boston Logan that put the Boston cell in position. And only my co-founder and I knew that. The FBI called us the afternoon of September 11th and started asking questions about that. We never shared that with the company, and I didn't actually start sharing it publicly till a couple of years ago after 20 years had passed. But I mentioned that because as a founder, there was this terrible, palpable sense of guilt and obviously grief, but also connection to the 9/11 tragedy that just added to the depths of depression at the company. And then finally, for me personally, I was on the flight from Newark to SFO on September 10th, the flight that would end up crashing in the field in Pennsylvania, because I spoke at the Millennium Hilton on September 9th at a travel conference. And so I was just spared from 9/11 by a day. And the Millennium Hilton was crushed by one of the Twin Towers that fell on it. So it was a tough time. And we had to figure shit out like founders do. And, what we did was we did what all of you did through COVID and what many of you did through the financial crisis of 2008. And maybe if some of you are old like me, maybe what some of you did through 9/11, which is you manage your company through that crisis. In our case, we did a layoff. We went from about 200 people to 150 people. We cut quickly and deeply, and with the goal of trying to make it a one and done layoff, which it was, fortunately. We did our down round, which was a $20 million down round, which was really painful. Nowadays, we have this great euphemism, which is, it has structure. Back then, they hadn't invented that euphemism. Back then, it just felt really painful. And it wiped out most of the common equity of the company. And then most importantly, we got everybody fired up again, and we kind of reconnected the survivors to the mission and reminded them why they were there, reminded them what we were there to accomplish. And by 2 years later, the company was doing well again, and we were on our way, and we ended up selling for $700 million to Expedia, which was great, except for that down round that I mentioned, which wiped out most of the common equity. Made for that exit not as attractive to the founders or the employees, but very attractive to the VCs. At any rate, so that was 99 to 03, Mike, and I learned a lot. It made me a much better founder for my next couple companies, but it was a pretty trial by fire period of my time, period of my founder story.